Good afternoon, Simple Plan community and friends, clients, and just those who are interested in taking good care with their money. It's good to be with you today. I am Brad Macbeth, licensed advisor, and today, again, we have a very special guest. My daughter Charlotte Macbeth is with us. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello.
It's great to have you again.
Yeah.
And Charlotte is doing a few things. First off, she's part of the Simple Plan team and working on marketing and communications, really helping us to get the message out there about keeping things simple in your financial life and following those 3 steps to plan, protect, and progress. But also, Charlotte is a fitness leader and fitness coach, and she happens to be my fitness coach. So we were talking, we've had some really interesting experiences recently and wanted to share with everyone about setting goals because we've had some great shared experience on that recently. And there's a lot of similarity in
Mhm.
setting goals with in finances and for your health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy that we're doing this because the more I'm learning about financial goals, I'm realizing it's the exact same structure that I've needed to teach you with your fitness goals. So there's so many crossovers, and I think it's really important to kind of acknowledge that and see how we can set these goals.
Absolutely. So you and I have been working together. Um, I didn't go back and look it up. I said before it's probably 4 months or something like that that we had been
Hmm.
working together. Um, and so we meet once a week, and you've helped me. And of course, in one of the big things that we really advocate for here at the Simple Plan is that people set their financial goals and work toward them. And working on goals is not simple. So when we started out on our fitness journey together, um, it was challenging, and I think we had, for me, I had relatively simple goals at the time.
Yeah, I think you were mostly looking for just overall fitness, like just getting to like that baseline of physical health. And yeah, you were like it really took for you like some focus to get there and finding those small little steps that were going to help get you there. But as that progressed, I feel like that's when you were starting to like really look at like a bigger goal. And we did just achieve a big goal, didn't we?
We did. A ways into it, we ended up, I set the goal of let's do the Grouse Grind.
Mhm.
And for those that aren't familiar with the Grouse Grind, it is, um, it's a climb up a mountain in Vancouver called Grouse Mountain. By count, there's something like 2,870 steps.
Mhm.
And so uh, once I got feeling a little more fit, I said, "Listen, let's set that as a goal." Which, uh, when I first floated it, um, I wasn't really joking, but I wasn't really sure that was going to be achievable at all. And so I started out down that path, and that was probably about 3 months ago. I started talking about that,
Mhm.
and yeah, we finally were able to do that this weekend.
Yeah, we sure were. We sure were. And I think it's just yeah, just wanted to note on the point that you said, when you first started or even when you first said it, like it was you weren't joking, but it just didn't quite seem like super real to you in that moment. But the more work and the more focus you put into it, and then, each week, every workout, you started to gain a little more strength and a little more confidence. It all of a sudden became this like reality for you. And then we went and we actually did it.
Yeah. So as I am wont to do, I did a lot of research to figure out what this was about. Now, interestingly, I had actually done this climb once before because my mother, your grandmother, uh, is a pretty ambitious person, and she dragged my brother and I up that before it was really developed at all the way it's developed now. Um, there was some public event, I don't even remember what it was exactly, but to do this thing. And so I think I was maybe 15, 16 at the time, and my poor brother would have been like 12. And we went up this thing, and it was very daunting and painful at the time. I was obviously much younger, but I wouldn't say I was probably really strong at the time. But anyway, we did that, and so that was the only recollection I had of it. And then once we started talking about it, I was really questioning whether this was sanity or not. But I thought, well, it's a big goal. Let's see how it goes. And so I started training, working out. I live in a building where there's 5 flights of stairs from the parking garage to the top of the building. So I started going up and down those stairs, and I set a goal of, well, when I can do half as many stairs as there are in the Grouse Grind, which meant I needed to do about 1,400 steps, then I'd feel like I could do that. And so we got to that point through all our working out together, and I did gain a lot of strength, but honestly, I still was fairly skeptical. And you said, at a certain point, because there's a lot of warnings. Like if you go look on the Grouse Grind website, it definitely says, hey, this isn't for you if you're not in fairly good shape. This is not just a nice little hike. It's very strenuous and quite ambitious because they don't want people stuck halfway up. So it was interesting to me, and I was, as we were moving toward the time, because we had a bit of a deadline on there because the weather changes, right? And then it's like, well, once it's really raining in Vancouver, you can't do it. They'll shut it down, or it'll be so sloppy you don't even want to attempt it. So we ended up on this, or I was, as we got toward it, I'm going, I don't know if I'm really ready for this. But you actually said, no, I think you're good. You'll be fine. I'm like, okay. And you had done it more recently, right?
Yes. Yeah.
When did you do it?
You know what? It had actually probably been a couple of years for myself as well. It had been a while. Yeah, I think it was must have been at least 2 years ago now that I did the Girls Grind.
Right. Okay. So that was helpful to me because I knew that you knew what it was like. I didn't really remember. I mean, it was decades ago that I was on it, and I was just like, I don't know. So, one of the first lessons for me with goal setting, because that's what we want to talk about here, is not just our adventure going up the mountain, but the whole thing of goals and then acting on executing your goals. What does that take? Because that's really, it's really what defeats people, both in their finances and in their personal fitness. They get discouraged, or they don't have goals, or any of these things. So, I was concerned, but having a coach to help me focus and prepare and be clear, and also able to give some perspective with your expertise of having recently done it, and you've worked with a lot of people, obviously many hundreds and hundreds of people in fitness over the years. So having that external point of view of someone who knew what this climb was about, and my level of fitness, and measuring that against others, was I going to be able to do this? Because as I had semi-jokingly told you, because your brother Spencer went up with us as well. He said, it was like, well, listen, if things get problematic halfway up, I hope you guys are doing some upper body strengthening so you can carry me the rest of the way. But so I wanted to share a few photos of our journey on the way up, because even while the grind became the goal, even the journey of doing the grind has its own great metaphors in there. So let me share. Not that. Where are we here? Oh, there we go. So here's just a few photos. This is Spencer on the left there, me in the center, obviously, and you on the right. This is at the bottom of the trail. It it's got some good disclaimers there or advice. No flip flops. You must be fit to hike. This is not for beginners. And there's lots of that stuff. And so there we are feeling hale and hearty, and away we went. And it was a good day, given that it was October. It could have been raining and awful. It was cool, and it was fairly decent conditions for what we were doing. And it wasn't that crowded. That was another thing we were worried about.
Yeah.
So you never know what obstacles you're going to find along the way, once you start on the journey. And so there's really two journeys here, right? There's the journey of preparing, and then there's the journey of actually executing. And then really the first very daunting moment came. We had done a lot of climbing, it felt like, because you start and you don't know what it's going to be like. Well, we got going, and it's like, oh, this is hard. This is going to be challenging. And so there's this sign that says, congratulations, you've made it to the quarter mark. And that's part of it. You don't know how far along you are on this journey, right? Once you get going, it's like, oh, I don't know, have we done half of it or what? And so then you've made it a quarter of the way, and this sign that says that was the easy section. Now comes the hard part. It gets steeper and narrower. And you're like, oh, okay. And then it says, do an honest check-in. Are you feeling tired? Have you used up all your water? And this is the best place to turn around, because you can't actually go downhill on this trail. So past this point, you're not allowed to go downhill, because it destroys the trail to have people going down on it. Plus, it's narrow in parts. And so this is kind of their real gut check point. Like, okay, if you're going to go, you're really committed after here. And I confess this sign was daunting to me, and I momentarily thought, well, maybe I should just, wisdom, discretion is the better part of valor here, and I should go back down. It put a little bit of fear into me. How did you feel at that point?
Well, I remember doing a check-in with you. I remember being like, okay, read the sign, and how do we feel about that? And I just remember you say, like, kind of taking a minute to like really check in, and then just being like, yep, we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna have to pace myself. And then we kept going.
Yeah.
And, I think that's very metaphorical for all goals, right? There's always a big scare. There's always usually a point, and it's usually not long after you start that you get challenged, or it's very daunting.
Yeah.
And that line of just like, I'm just going to have to pace myself is just such universal wisdom. That's just like the truth when you're working towards any big goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so, when we prepare for any big goal, whether it's financial or what have you, we can prepare for the goal, but at a certain point, the cost of what we're doing starts to come into clear focus, and you're like, oh, this is really what it's going to take. And so you get going on that track, and it's like, okay, I've already expended a lot here getting to this quarter mark, and I'm like, it's not only not going to get easier, my internal resources are going to dwindle as we keep going, right? I'm going to get more tired or whatever. So yeah, it was an interesting moment. But it was just like, well, haven't come this far to turn around, so giddy up, let's go. But yes, that moment where you can actually start to see what the real cost is going to be here. And, with financial goals for a lot of people, it's very challenging for them to kind of get things in order and then follow the disciplines, that's really what the training part was, right? Was that. But, once you start to execute, I would compare this to like going out and buying a house, right? It's like the training was the saving the down payment and all the discipline it required to save the money. You start denying yourself, In fitness, it might be, well, I'm going to spend time working out rather than just watching TV, or I'm going to stop eating this and I'm only going to eat that. And in finance, it's like, well, I'm going to stop living with credit card debt. I'm going to live within my means. I'm going to start saving, which means I'm going to sacrifice more. All that kind of stuff. And yet, when you get to this quarter point section, you're like, wow, okay, we're going to do it, but it's going to cost something for us
Hmm.
to do it. So then, we got halfway there, and that felt good. But you can see my glasses are fogging up there. It's definitely, and I'm pretty sweaty. Um, you know, you're feeling like now you're really in. I mean, you're just in it, right? There's no point in going back. It's not. You're not going to accomplish anything better by going back. Now you're just stuck, and you just have to execute. You just have to keep going. And that's that. It really felt like that here is, okay, we got to put one foot in front of the other and keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but after that halfway mark, like, I swear the second half went by way faster than the first half. Like, once we got through the first half part, and then like I remember seeing the 3/4 way mark, and I just remember thinking, oh, like that's it, like we only have a bit more to go. Like it just felt like once you push through that, um, I don't know, I don't want to use the word easier because it certainly wasn't easier, but we had just had such momentum. I think is a good analogy that the last part just had this rhythm to it that just kept us going and kind of energized us.
Yeah. Well, I think too, you get a stride going. And I used to
Yeah.
distance run. I ran a marathon many decades ago as well. And a lot of people don't like running because they never quite get in that zone. But I would just get into that zone where you just keep running, and I could go and go and go and go. And you've found your pace and your rhythm, and you can just keep moving,
Yeah.
and um, off you go. It's you find a place at which you can continue to carry on at the pace that you need to just get where you need to go.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I would agree that to me is that effect of once you get to that place. And so again, with your fitness, it's a matter of you get to a place where no, working out is just what I do. Um, you might have days where you don't do it as much or you slack off, and then days where you really do it, but it becomes a part of your life, same as the financial disciplines.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting because I'm kind of experiencing all the same metaphors, but with finances right now. So just, taking on this 5-day challenge that we have provided and really executing it and taking like small steps, like looking at my net worth. All these little micro things are adding up to me feeling like I can now look at setting a bigger goal. Whereas, like, to be transparent, for the last couple of years, I haven't been heavily focused on my finances, and even thinking about a goal just seems out of reach. But now that I've taken those few steps and been really taking a look and be like, oh, like I can actually get to a point where I can be debt free and start banking money in X amount of time. All it took was me taking the time to take those few steps and noticing that. And now I feel empowered to be like, okay, like what's next after I get there? Like now what can I do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, when we first started down on our financial journey to get things really in order and under control, it took us, I'd say it took us the better part of 3 months to kind of get our cash flow budgeting management really nailed down. You
Yeah.
need to go through a bunch of, a number of pay cycles. So you start to see how that rhythm works. And also, over the course of a few months, you have some of those one off, once a month kind of bigger things or once a quarter things that uh, aren't part of everyday finance come up, and you're like, oh yeah, I have to make room for that as well, and all that. And so um, it takes all of these things require transition, and they take months to kind of build up that new habit muscle so that it's just a regular part of living.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's so transferable to fitness too. Like, I don't agree to train people unless I can train them for like 10 weeks at least. And my hope is that they'll still keep going because you'll still need a bit more time to really see results, right?
Yeah.
And really create habits. And that's the same thing with the financials, right? Like all of us are so used to like this instant gratification, and we once we don't see it, like we think we can't do it, but it's just it takes all those little steps and the repetition and the habits to actually get to a place where you can get in reach of those big goals, or at least envision them.
Yeah. So as we carried on, we got to the 3/4 mark, which felt like, okay, we're well, you're certainly not on the downhill side because it's all uphill all the way, and it's pretty steep. But yeah, it felt like, okay, now we're here and we're going to hit the finish at some point. But it was interesting because even after that point, I remember there's one spot where you get this view, and this photo doesn't quite capture it. But this is before, eventually, when you get up a little higher, you can start to see a break in the trees and you can see daylight up at the top, but you're not quite there yet. And this, uh, you can't quite see it in this picture, but these stairs are just, it's like all you can see. They just go off into the distance there. And even though you're more than 3/4 of the way done, you're like, that one view where I'm like, man, that is you can still see like, you could see like 400 stairs ahead of you, and they're all uphill. And you're like, okay, I guess we're not quite done yet. So, you've got to keep on keeping on and make it, make it your goal to get the whole thing done. You got to have that energy to finish. And these little, you can see on this tree here, right? That's one of those little markers. I don't know if, can I see which one that is? Because they were there all along the way, right? It was
Yeah.
something. It was out of 40. There's 40 of these markers along the way, but they're not all evenly spaced quite. So you'd think, oh, hey, we're 30% of the way done. It's like, no, you weren't. It's just, yeah, you were at marker 13 out of 40. But so sometimes you think you can't be focused on, hey, how far am I? Am I there yet? Like it's when you get the kids in the car, it's like, are we there yet? Right? It's like, listen, you've got to be in it for the journey. And there's great views. I didn't take a lot of pictures, but we saw some spectacular views along the way. Not as many as you might normally, because it got quite, after this, it got fairly cloudy and closed in, so you couldn't see the city below. But you've got to enjoy the journey and be in it for the whole journey, not just for the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you said that because, yes, we've accomplished the grind, but now we're talking about what's next, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about maybe doing some overnight hikes or something like that. So, even these goals that you set, they're just milestones. It's not that we want to stop when we hit the goal. We want to keep going. It's just now we can achieve something even bigger and greater because we know that we're capable of that first goal.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm definitely feeling like, okay, I need another goal,
Yeah.
because the goal really, really drove me, because I knew if I was going to do this thing, and it's like, listen, if I'm not going out and doing those stairs a few times a week at least to build that muscle, going up this grind is not going to be pleasant. And so, yeah, I'm like, okay, I need another goal. What is it? Not sure yet. And I have shorter term goals. Like we like to go walking most days, and we probably will. It's actually very nice outside right now, so we'll probably go. We try to get that in now as well because the darkness is descending right soon, especially where are we at? The 18th. So another couple of weeks, we're going to turn off daylight saving time. It's going to be getting dark at a horrible hour, like before 5 o'clock. So we try to get out now in the sunshine and the daylight and enjoy that during the weekdays. And you have to, all these goals, you have to enjoy the journey, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes it's like, well, I just enjoy the journey because I know it's good for me and I'm feeling better about everything. It relieves a lot of stress, and that's true in both departments, both finance and fitness. People have terrible stress about money. And even if you're not out of your troubles financially, if you're working on them and you're working toward goals and you're measuring your progress, then you feel like you're going in the right direction rather than either the wrong direction or just not knowing what you're doing at all.
Yeah, I'd say I definitely feel a lot more like less like a leaf blowing in the wind and more like a leaf that's on a tree that's a little more grounded now
Oh,
that
that's
I've
good.
started focusing on my goals, on my financial goals.
All right, and then we got to this last spot here where they've you can see the chalets just in the background there. We're at the top of the Grouse Grind, and they've nailed one of the souvenir T-shirts to the tree there that says "I survived the Grouse Grind." So it was a really good feeling to achieve that, and a little. It's not anticlimactic, but it's like, oh, we're done. That's good. It felt good to accomplish it. It definitely felt good to be able to stop walking upstairs at that
Yes.
point. But it was like it's both exciting and your big when your big goal is achieved, it's like, okay, now what am I going to do?
Hmm.
So. But another metaphor, another kind of interesting thing is when you go on these journeys, you see things along the way that you never anticipated. And so here's one thing we saw that I didn't know we were going to see that day.
No.
They're taking care of some owls up at the top there. I didn't even really pay that much attention to what the story was because it was cold, and obviously we're really socked in there by now. We're in the clouds, but standing just a few feet from that owl was very cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful owl.
And then we got to see this bad boy. There's two grizzlies that have been rescued, and so they have this habitat at the top of Grouse Mountain there. And man, to get just a few feet from that thing was quite amazing.
Yeah, that was incredible. I've never been that close. I don't know if I mean most of us haven't seen a grizzly bear because we don't
Yeah.
really live to talk about it. So it was very a unique experience to see one up and close and personal like that.
Well, yeah, you just take a look at those claws on that guy, and there's another one in the background there. There's two of them. Another one about 20 feet away. So yeah, it's very exciting when you go on these adventures. When you set goals and take these journeys, you don't know what you're going to find along the way, and so that was very exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I've just we would just want us to talk about this, the nature of these goals and what it all means, because it's so important to set goals financially, and hopefully people that are either in the 5-day financial fitness challenge right now or those that are going to undertake it sometime in the future. That's usually why people have financial goals. They want to get control of their money. They want to be they want to be relieved from the financial stress and uncertainty that comes with not managing your money well, and they want to get out of debt. That's really the number one financial goal for many Canadians, is to be out of debt, and that's completely achievable. And it is, we undertook that journey, wow, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And it was difficult. We had a great lifestyle going. We had it all piled up high, two nice cars with car leases and all that good stuff. And we just decided, no, we can't live this way, because you just end up spending all your money and you're not building anything for the future. And so It was challenging when we made that shift. Took, months to really get the new way going, and took us probably 18 months of chipping away to really get rid of all the debt. And but it's totally different when you live when you don't have debt. The same way that it's totally different when you're fit, right? That you're strong and you're capable, and you're ready for whatever comes. So with what's happened in our world in the last 20 months, not having debt and having savings and all that good stuff has made that much more manageable. Whereas a lot of people have struggled a lot because they weren't in a good position financially when things really went sideways, things that were completely beyond our control.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to encourage anyone that's kind of in that position where maybe, yeah, things feel really out of control, or maybe they're not even out of control, but you're just not really on a financial path. And like maybe this last couple of years is you've just had so much else to worry about. I just want to encourage you to even just take those minor steps right now. Like even if you can still join the challenge if you want, just to even start to get a good look at your finances. Because I'm telling you, even just that first step is just such a big help. And it'll, like, for me, it's actually even been encouraging, and made things seem like they're more within reach. So if that's kind of you as well, I just want to encourage you to take the first steps.
Excellent. Well, this has been great. I've been thinking about this. I was thinking about it while doing the grind, just all that we were going through. I thought, oh, this is going to be really good to talk about because I love that we've been on this journey together, set this goal, and what a great help you've been to me in getting there. I'm definitely much stronger than I was, and looking forward to getting even more strong and figuring out what the next goals are. And so, thank you very much for that, Charlotte. And yeah, any last words before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to you for like putting in the work, because that's who really did it. And it's been such a pleasure working with you and seeing you achieve those goals. And yeah, and just same thank you to bringing like awareness to my finances. I think, yeah, that's just my final message is if you don't have any financial awareness right now, then just take the first steps.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much to everyone for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful to you. And thanks for joining us, Charlotte, and sharing all your perspective. And we'll see everyone again in a few days on our Friday broadcast.
All
Talk to
right.
you
See you
soon.
then. Bye.